3 weeks after the Concordat delegation establishes residence in the newly constructed Harmony complex outside Geneva, Dr. Hernandez notices a pattern in their movements. Every diplomatic meeting follows the same protocol. The Vraxians request extensive tours of human manufacturing centers, military training facilities, and population hubs, all while their more reserved allies, the crystalline Netheri, focus exclusively on Earth's digital infrastructure. They're mapping us, Hernandez tells Vasquez during a secure meeting beneath a waterfall in the Andes facility, one of the few locations guaranteed to block all known surveillance. Not as potential allies, but as acquisition targets. Vasquez nods, unsurprised. The question is why? If they wanted our resources, there are easier targets with less resistance. What makes Earth worth the trouble? The answer comes from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Amara Singh, a cynobiology specialist assigned to the Concordat Welcoming Committee, brings Hernandez a disturbing observation. During mandatory medical screenings, the aliens showed unusual interest in human DNA samples. They kept running the same analysis over and over. Singh explains, projecting holographic data showing Concordat medical officers secretly copying human genetic information. At first I thought they were searching for compatibility issues or potential pathogens, but their focus was specific, genetic diversity and adaptability markers. Hernandez's expression darkens. They're not after our planet. They're after us. Further investigation confirms her suspicion. Unlike the species of the Concordat, who evolved in stable environments with minimal adaptation requirements, human DNA contains the genetic memory of countless evolutionary pressures, ice ages, climate shifts, predator adaptations, and disease resistance. This diversity makes humans uniquely valuable in a galaxy where most sentient species face genetic stagnation after millennia of technological comfort. When President Chen dismisses these concerns as paranoia, Vasquez takes matters into her own hands. She establishes a shadow protocol, codenamed Lazarus, outside official channels. Military personnel deemed trustworthy receive encrypted instructions to prepare for a scenario officially deemed too unlikely to warrant resource allocation: alien betrayal and planetary invasion. I pray I'm wrong, Vasquez tells her inner circle. But if I'm right, official preparation would alert them. So we prepare unofficially. Across Earth, submarine commanders receive sealed orders to be opened only under specific conditions. Orbital defense platform engineers implement hidden subroutines in their systems. Special forces units conduct classified drills for asymmetric warfare against technologically superior opponents. Civilian infrastructure, subway systems, power grids, communication networks, undergoes subtle modifications to function during crisis scenarios the public never hears about. Most crucially, Vasquez orchestrates the apparent destruction of 3 obsolete deep space monitoring stations while actually converting them into hidden command nodes beyond Concordat observation. Captain Chen, whose skepticism about the aliens matches Vasquez's own, ensures that lunar mining operations secretly stockpile materials that could be repurposed for military use. Meanwhile, the public face of human Concordat relations remains diplomatic and hopeful. Celebrations mark technological exchanges that, carefully curated by the aliens, offer impressive but ultimately limited advancements. Ambassador Thexel becomes a media darling, his elegant manner and seemingly genuine interest in human culture winning over celebrities and politicians alike. Only Vasquez, watching from the shadows of increasingly militarized bunkers, notices how the Vraxian ambassador's questions always circle back to human conflict. How we fight. Why we fight. What drives humans to endure conditions other species would surrender under. He's not studying us, she tells Hernandez as they watch footage of Thexel touring the World War I Memorial in Washington, D.C. He's assessing us, and I don't think we're passing his test in the way he expected. The Vraxian ground forces make their first tactical error within hours of landing. Commander Zexity, following standard Concordat invasion protocols, secures major governmental buildings and communication hubs, expecting to cripple human resistance by removing centralized leadership. It's a strategy that has worked flawlessly across 100 worlds, but Earth isn't like those worlds. In the smoking ruins of what was once the Pentagon, Vraxian elite units find nothing but empty offices and destroyed computer systems. When they breach the presidential bunker beneath the White House, they discover it was evacuated 20 minutes before the first orbital strike, almost as if someone had expected the attack. Impossible, Zexty hisses, his translucent skin flushing dark with anger. They couldn't have known. The operation was completely compartmentalized. What Zexty doesn't understand is that Admiral Vasquez hadn't needed alien intelligence to prepare. She had centuries of human history, of surprise attacks, betrayals, and existential threats to draw upon. Humanity, unlike the Concordat species, has never known true security, and thus has never ceased preparing for its absence. As night falls across a devastated North America, the Vraxians establish forward operating bases in major cities. Their scanners detect no significant military formations, their long-range sensors show no massing of forces, and their communications intercepts reveal nothing but civilian panic. By all observable metrics, human resistance is scattered and ineffective. The first sign that this assessment might be flawed comes at precisely 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. Across every occupied zone, power grids suddenly fail. Vraxian bases, operating on their own generators, barely notice, until those generators inexplicably shut down as well. In the sudden darkness, alien troops activate emergency lighting, revealing nothing amiss. The attack begins 60 seconds later. Sewage systems beneath Vraxian positions rupture, flooding tunnels and lower levels with not just waste, but precise chemical cocktails that react with the methane naturally produced by decomposition. The resulting explosions aren't large, but they don't need to be. They're precisely calculated to breach specific structural weak points in buildings now occupied by alien forces. As Vraxian troops evacuate damaged structures, they emerge into streets suddenly transformed. Civilian vehicles abandoned during the initial attack detonate in coordinated sequence, turning urban thoroughfares into kill zones of shrapnel and fire. Ordinary streetlights, their internal components secretly modified months earlier as part of Vasquez's Lazarus protocol, emit concentrated microwave bursts that play havoc with Vraxian neural systems. Most devastating of all, humans who appeared to be cowering civilians suddenly reveal themselves as resistance fighters. The middle-aged accountant who surrendered without resistance when aliens secured his apartment building now emerges with chemical weapons specifically designed to penetrate Vraxian breathing apparatuses. The teenage girl who wept in terror as troops searched her family's home waits until they pass, then detonates the ceramic explosive devices hidden in her doll's collection. In New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and a dozen other occupied cities, the pattern repeats with variations tailored to local conditions. The Vraxians, accustomed to military opposition that fights according to recognizable doctrines, find themselves facing an enemy that acknowledges no boundaries between civilian and military, that transforms infrastructure into weaponry, and that fights not to secure tactical objectives, but simply to kill as many invaders as possible. By dawn, Vraxian casualties have reached levels previously considered unacceptable in Concordat military doctrine. Commander Zexty, directing operations from his command ship in high orbit after his ground headquarters was destroyed by a suicide attack, receives increasingly desperate reports from his field officers. They're everywhere, one transmission states before abruptly terminating. They look like refugees until they're close enough to. Another ends mid-sentence with the distinctive static of a communications unit being destroyed along with its operator. Dr. Hernandez stares at the dismantled Vraxian shield generator, its alien components spread across her laboratory table like an autopsy. 3 days of non-stop analysis has yielded breakthroughs that would have taken years under peacetime conditions. Necessity, as the old saying goes, remains the mother of invention. and few necessities are more urgent than survival. The shield matrix operates on a phase-shifted resonance pattern. She explains to her team of haggard scientists and engineers. It's designed to disperse energy weapons and deflect physical projectiles through a predictable sequence of frequency modulations. A former quantum computing specialist, now repurposed as a weapons developer, looks up from his calculations. Predictable means exploitable. Exactly. Hernandez activates a holographic simulation showing the shield's energy pattern. They've optimized their defenses against threats they understand, mainly other Concordat weapons, but they never accounted for certain frequencies we explored during the development of our electromagnetic pulse weapons. The implications spread through the room like electricity. Shields that can withstand direct hits from advanced energy weapons might be vulnerable to specifically calibrated pulses from much more primitive human technology. Within hours, teams begin modifying existing missile systems to deliver precisely the frequencies that will bypass Vraxian defenses. Meanwhile, in a makeshift training facility beneath the ruins of Rio de Janeiro, General Mbeki watches as former soldiers from a dozen nations drill civilians in the art of killing aliens. The training bears little resemblance to conventional military instruction. There are no parade grounds, no emphasis on unit cohesion or coordinated maneuvers. Instead, small groups learn how to identify critical weaknesses in Vraxian physiology, how to sabotage their equipment, and, most importantly, how to disappear afterward. We don't win by holding ground, Mbeki tells a group of nervous teachers, cab drivers, and office workers now transformed into resistance fighters. We win by making every inch of ground cost them more than they're willing to pay. A woman who was a high school chemistry teacher before the invasion raises her hand. I've synthesized the compound you requested, she says, presenting a vial of cloudy liquid. It reacts with the copper-based elements in their breathing filters. One drop aerosolized will contaminate a 20-meter radius for approximately 6 hours. Mbeki nods approvingly. Good. Remember, we're not fighting a conventional war here. We're creating an environment where they can never feel safe, never establish stability, never achieve their objectives without constant, debilitating losses. In the asteroid belt, Captain Chen oversees a different kind of resistance. Mining colonies that the Vraxians believe destroyed in their initial assault have instead gone dark, cutting all transmissions, powering down non-essential systems, and converting their industrial infrastructure for war production. Every mining charge becomes a bomb. Chen instructs his makeshift fleet commanders. Every hauler becomes a ram. Every habitat module becomes a trap. He gestures to the modified freighter that now serves as his flagship. What was once a civilian vessel designed to transport minerals now bristles with improvised weapons and reinforced hull plating. A former mining engineer raises concerns about their chances against proper warships. We're basically strapping guns to tractors, she points out. They have vessels designed from the keel up for combat. Chen smiles thinly. True. But they design ships to fight other ships. We're not going to fight them. We're going to hunt them. He brings up a display showing the complex network of supply lines the Vraxians have established to maintain their occupation of Earth. Their military doctrine relies on secure logistics. We're going to show them what happens when every supply ship has to wonder if that approaching asteroid is natural or propelled by vengeful humans. The destruction of the Vraxian command ships transforms the conflict overnight. For the first time since the invasion began, Earth's skies are not dominated by alien vessels. Admiral Vasquez watches from her mobile command center, currently hidden aboard a nuclear submarine beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, as tactical displays show Vraxian forces frantically regrouping. They're consolidating their ground positions, her intelligence officer reports. Abandoning smaller outposts to reinforce major strongholds, it appears they're shifting to a defensive posture. Vasquez studies the holographic battlefield representation. They're following standard doctrine for unexpected setbacks. Pull back, secure critical assets, wait for reinforcements. A grim smile crosses her face. But reinforcements aren't coming, not after what Captain Chen just did to their support fleet. Reports from resistance cells worldwide confirm the shift in Vraxian tactics. The aliens, once confidently spreading across Earth's surface, now cluster in heavily fortified positions, their patrols venturing out only in overwhelming numbers and retreating at the first sign of resistance. What the Vraxian High Command interprets as strategic redeployment, Vasquez recognizes as the first stages of defeat, an enemy that no longer believes it can win through offensive action. It's time for Phase 2, she announces to her War Council, assembled via secure quantum-encrypted connections from hidden bases worldwide. General Mbeki, are your forces ready? The general, speaking from his underground headquarters, confirms that resistance fighters worldwide stand prepared for coordinated action. Our people are in position near every major Vraxian stronghold. They await only the signal. Dr. Hernandez, what's the status of Project Achilles? The scientist appears exhausted but triumphant on her video feed. The prototype performed beyond expectations in final testing. We can begin production immediately using distributed manufacturing cells. Within 72 hours, every resistance group will have access to shield-penetrating capabilities. Vasquez turns finally to Captain Chen, his transmission delayed by the distance between Earth and his fleet in the asteroid belt. Captain, your losses in the orbital engagement. Chen's face remains impassive, but his voice carries the weight of difficult decisions. 47 vessels lost with all hands. Another 31 damaged but repairable. He pauses briefly. Every pilot knew the mission's importance. None hesitated, even those assigned to direct impact trajectories. The room falls silent in acknowledgement of the sacrifice. Vasquez finally breaks the silence. We now have what we haven't had since this war began: initiative. For the first time, the Vraxians are reacting to us instead of the reverse. We must press this advantage before they can adapt. The plan unfolds with precision, born of desperate necessity. While Vraxian forces concentrate on strengthening their defensive positions, human resistance cells worldwide begin a new phase of operations, not attacking the aliens directly, but systematically destroying the infrastructure they rely upon. Power generation facilities powering their bases suffer catastrophic failures. Water purification systems for their biological needs mysteriously become contaminated. Communication relays explode without warning. Most crucially, resistance fighters equipped with Dr. Hernandez's shield-penetrating weapons begin targeting not the heavily armored front gates of Vraxian strongholds, but the seemingly impregnable shield generators themselves. Alien commanders, confident in defenses that have protected their species for millennia, discover too late that humans have rendered their most advanced protective technology obsolete in a matter of months. In Mexico City, site of the civilian massacre that changed the nature of the war, the resistance executes the most daring operation yet. Led by a former cartel enforcer who lost his family in the initial invasion, a small team infiltrates the city's ancient underground river system, navigating waterways unused for centuries to bypass Vraxian perimeter defenses. They emerge inside the aliens' primary regional headquarters, once the National Palace, and deploy not conventional explosives, but a specially engineered biological agent developed from Dr. Hernandez's research. The compound, harmless to humans, triggers cascading cellular breakdown in Vraxian physiology. Over 8 excruciating hours, the alien garrison, including the regional commander who ordered the civilian executions, dies to the last individual. Human resistance fighters broadcast the footage across all communication channels with a simple message: remember Mexico City. The psychological impact proves as devastating as the tactical losses. Vraxian troops, already unnerved by humanity's unexpected resilience, now face the realization that their superior technology offers no protection, that humans can bypass their defenses, neutralize their advantages, and deliver death that targets their species specifically while leaving humans unharmed. In his orbital command center, increasingly isolated as ground communications become unreliable, Commander XT receives the reports with growing horror. The campaign that was supposed to secure his place in Vraxian military history is instead becoming a cautionary tale of unprecedented failure. The HSS Retribution exits Earth's atmosphere with a deliberate display of power, its engines flaring brightly enough to be visible from the surface. Vasquez wants the remaining Vraxian forces to see humanity's ascension, to understand that the invaded now command the stars. As the captured cruiser rises toward orbital insertion, she receives reports of Vraxian ground forces abandoning positions worldwide, desperately attempting to reach extraction points. "Let them run," she instructs her commanders. "Every ship they send to evacuate troops is one less we'll have to deal with later, and every trooper who escapes will spread the story of their defeat." The psychological dimension of warfare, something the Concordat species with their millennia of uncontested superiority never needed to consider, has become humanity's most potent weapon. Vraxian military doctrine contains no protocols for retreat because their campaigns have never required it. Now their forces collapse not merely from tactical defeats, but from the shattering of their fundamental belief in their own invincibility. Aboard the Retribution, engineers and scientists continue the process of understanding and adapting alien technology. What would have taken decades of research and development under peaceful conditions is accomplished in weeks through the brutal efficiency of war. Human hands reshape Vraxian consoles, human minds repurpose Vraxian weapons, and human determination converts Vraxian hubris into human victory. When the Concordat diplomatic vessel appears at the edge of the solar system, broadcasting offers of ceasefire and negotiation, Vasquez doesn't bother responding directly. Instead, she transmits footage of Mexico City, of orbital platforms destroyed without warning, of civilian populations targeted during the initial invasion. The final image, Earth as seen from orbit, its night side glittering not with city lights, but with the fires of ongoing conflict, carries the simple message that has become humanity's war cry. You chose extermination. Now bear its consequences. The diplomatic vessel retreats. Its mission failed before it truly began. The Concordat, which has manipulated galactic politics for thousands of years through a combination of technological superiority and diplomatic maneuvering, discovers that neither approach works against a species fighting for survival with nothing left to lose. Operation Exodus launches 1 month after the liberation of Earth orbit. A fleet of 37 vessels, some captured Vraxian warships, others converted human spacecraft augmented with alien technology, departs the solar system bound for the nearest Vraxian colony. Commanding the mission, Admiral Vasquez stands on the bridge of the flagship Retribution and addresses her forces. "We did not start this war," she reminds them, her voice carried across the fleet. "We did not choose this conflict, but we will end it on our terms. The Vraxians came to our home believing we would be easy prey. Now we go to theirs to ensure they never threaten humanity again." The fleet travels using captured Vraxian faster than light technology, crossing distances that would have taken human generation ships centuries to traverse. They arrive at the Vraxian colony world of Neld Sharon without warning, the same courtesy the aliens extended to Earth, and find exactly what intelligence gathered from captured databases predicted: a prosperous world with minimal defensive capabilities, its population never having considered the possibility of attack. What happens next establishes the template for humanity's campaign against Vraxian space. Unlike the aliens' invasion of Earth, which targeted military installations first, human forces strike at everything simultaneously. Defense systems, yes, but also food production facilities, water treatment plants, power generation stations, and transportation networks. Within hours, the colony's infrastructure lies in ruins while its population, accustomed to comfort and security, descends into panic. Dr. Hernandez, now serving as Chief Science Officer aboard the Retribution, monitors the operation with clinical detachment that masks her inner conflict. "The targeting is precise," she reports. "Civilian casualties are minimal given the scale of the attack." Vasquez nods acknowledgement but sees the unspoken question in Hernandez's eyes. "You're wondering if we're becoming like them," she says quietly, away from the rest of the bridge crew. "The difference is intent. They came to exterminate us and take our world. We're ensuring they can never attempt that again." As ground forces secure key facilities, human scientists begin accessing the colony's databases, extracting information about other Vraxian worlds, defensive capabilities, and most valuable of all, the locations of their key research and production facilities. Each conquered colony becomes not merely a victory, but a stepping stone to the next target, an accelerating cascade of defeats that the Vraxian military, designed for measured expansion rather than desperate defense, cannot adapt to quickly enough. General Mbeki stands amid the ruins of what was once the greatest city on the Vraxian homeworld, breathing through a filtration mask, though the air is technically safe for humans. Around him, Marines from Earth's secure positions among crystalline structures, now shattered by relativistic impacts and orbital bombardment. The once gleaming metropolis of Vraxtelon, crown jewel of the Vraxian Imperium, for over 20,000 years, now serves as humanity's forward command center for the final phase of the war. Status report. Mbeki demands as his operations officer approaches through the debris-strewn boulevard. "Southern continent resistance has collapsed completely, sir. Eastern continent forces are attempting to regroup around their agricultural centers, but our air superiority makes movement impossible. Northern polar forces continue fighting but are running critically low on power for their weapon systems." Mbeki nods, surveying the tactical display on his augmented reality interface. The Vraxian homeworld, like Earth before it, has become a battlefield unlike anything in Concordat history. Unlike Earth, however, the defenders lack experience with prolonged conflict, resource scarcity, or adaptive warfare. Their resistance, while initially fierce, has crumbled under the relentless human assault. And a high command bunker. "Our penetration teams breached the outer defenses 20 minutes ago. They're proceeding through the security layers now. Resistance is heavy but disorganized." What neither officer says aloud is that this battle represents something unprecedented, not just in this war, but in human history. Never before has humanity projected military power across interstellar distances. Never before have human soldiers stood on an alien world, breathing alien air, bringing alien rulers to account for their actions. The psychological impact on the troops is profound, a mixture of awe at their own achievement and cold determination to complete their mission. Deep beneath the ruined city, that mission approaches its climax as specialized human forces, a mixture of former special operators, intelligence agents, and civilian specialists with unique skills, penetrate the final defenses of the Vraxian High Command Bunker. Their equipment combines human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. Armor that renders them nearly invisible to Vraxian sensors, weapons calibrated to the specific weaknesses of Vraxian physiology, and tactical systems that adapt in real time to changing conditions. Commander Sarah Reeves, leading the assault team, comes from a long family tradition of military service. Her ancestors fought in conflicts dating back to Earth's 20th century. Now she stands poised to make history as the human who captures the leadership of humanity's first interstellar enemy. Final barrier ahead, her point operator reports, indicating a massive door of unknown alloy that glows faintly with energy shields. Sensors detect multiple life signs beyond. Estimate 20 to 30 individuals, minimal weapon signatures. Reeves considers her options, then makes the call that will be recorded in history texts for generations. Deploy the Hernandez device. A specialist steps forward, placing a small cylindrical object against the barrier. Developed by Dr. Hernandez based on her groundbreaking work with Vraxian shield technology, the device emits precisely calibrated frequencies that cause the shields to resonate until they collapse from within. Like an opera singer shattering glass with a perfect note, but on a quantum level. The barrier's glow flickers, then fails completely. With a grinding sound of protest, the massive door slides open, revealing the command center of the Vraxian war effort, and the leaders who ordered the attack on Earth. The Vraxian High Command, 12 elder statesmen whose translucent bodies show the darkened neural patterns of extreme stress stare in disbelief as human soldiers enter their most secure sanctuary. Around them, junior officers and technicians freeze at their stations, some reaching for weapons but stopping at the realization of how completely their defenses have failed. Reeves steps forward, her translator converting her words to the musical tones of the Vraxian language. By authority granted under United Earth Military Directive 17, I place you under arrest for crimes against humanity, including attempted genocide, unprovoked interstellar aggression, and systematic targeting of civilian populations. The eldest Vraxian, his skin patterns indicating his supreme rank, rises slowly from his command throne. Impossible, he says, the word carrying the weight of his species' shattered worldview. You are primitives, barely achieving spaceflight. How could you possibly? You made a fundamental miscalculation, Reeves replies, her voice level despite the historic moment. You judged our technological development without understanding our capacity for adaptation. You saw our limited reach without recognizing our unlimited determination. Most critically, she gestures to her team, humans standing proud in the heart of an alien civilization. You started a war with a species that has never known lasting peace, and thus has never stopped preparing for conflict. The Concordat headquarters on Nexus Prime, once the unquestioned center of galactic governance, now hosts a very different kind of gathering. Admiral Vasquez stands before representatives of the 7 Concordat species, her uniform bearing the scars of combat despite this diplomatic setting. Behind her, a detachment of human Marines maintains watchful vigilance, their weapons not quite pointed at the alien delegates but positioned for immediate response if needed. 2 standard years ago, Vasquez begins without preamble. Your alliance sanctioned an unprovoked attack on my world. You believed our destruction or subjugation would be swift and certain. Today, the Vraxian homeworld lies under human occupation. Their colonies have surrendered unconditionally, and their military capacity has been reduced to pre-spaceflight levels. She allows the statement to hang in the air, its implications unmistakable. Now we discuss the terms that will govern our future relationship. The representatives exchange glances, their various physiologies expressing alarm in ways human diplomatic specialists have spent months learning to interpret. The Netheri delegate, crystalline structures glimmering with nervous energy, speaks first. The Netheri collective officially dissociates from the actions of the Vraxian Imperium. We declare ourselves neutral in this conflict and request recognition as a non-belligerent power. Vasquez's expression remains impassive. There is no neutrality in existential conflict. Your species provided technological support for the invasion of Earth, supplied key components for weapons used against our civilian populations, and shared intelligence that facilitated attacks on our colonies. The time for diplomatic positioning ended when the first Vraxian warship entered our system. The terms she presents are unprecedented in Concordat history: complete surrender of all military assets, unrestricted access to technological databases, human oversight of all former Concordat worlds, and reparations that will cripple their economies for generations. The alternative, though unspoken, is demonstrated by the fate of the Vraxians: reduction to a pre-industrial state under permanent human supervision. The Krovax, a warlike species that had eagerly supported the Vraxian campaign, attempt defiance. Their representative, a heavily armored figure with vestigial wings, rises in challenge. The Krovax Dominion rejects these terms as dishonorable. We maintain significant defensive capabilities and will not surrender to. The representative's declaration ends abruptly as Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, head of Vasquez's security detail, activates a holographic display showing real-time footage of Krovax defense installations across 3 systems shutting down simultaneously, their power signatures winking out one after another. Your defense grid access codes were compromised 62 days ago, Rodriguez explains calmly. Human infiltration teams have been in position for the past month. Your significant defensive capabilities now answer to us. This revelation sends shockwaves through the assembly. The sophistication required to penetrate Krovak's military systems, considered among the most secure in the Concordat, without detection, suggests human capabilities far beyond what any had believed possible. The mercantile Geth, always pragmatic, immediately shift strategy. Their representative, a rotund being with multiple manipulator appendages, offers access to their vast trading network and resource-rich colonies in exchange for preferential treatment. The Geth consortium recognizes the new balance of power. The representative states smoothly, "We propose an alliance of mutual benefit that would give humanity access to markets across 200 systems." Throughout these negotiations, Vasquez feels the weight of history upon her shoulders. She stands not merely as a military commander, but as humanity's representative at the dawn of its interstellar era. The decisions made in this chamber will shape the future of not just Earth, but countless worlds across the galaxy. From the shadowed edge of the chamber, an Araxian observer finally emerges, a being of swirling energy barely contained within a humanoid form. Unlike the other representatives, this entity approaches Vasquez directly, its movements conveying neither fear nor submission. "Admiral," the Araxian addresses her in perfect English, its voice resonating not through air, but directly in the minds of all present. "Before you reshape the galaxy to your will, we ask that you look beyond this moment of triumph to the future you are creating." The Araxian extends a tendril of energy that forms into a sphere of swirling light before Vasquez. Within it, images form, possible futures branching from this pivotal moment. In sum, human military might continues its expansion unchecked, subjugating world after world until resistance forms and new conflicts erupt. In others, humanity establishes dominance only to fragment from within as victorious generals and admirals carve out personal empires among the stars. 5 years after Earth's skies first darkened with alien ships, Dr. Maya Hernandez stands on the observation deck of Harmony Station, once a Concordat monitoring outpost, now the headquarters of the Terran Protectorate. Through the vast viewport, she watches vessels from a dozen worlds dock and depart, their designs reflecting both their origins and humanity's growing influence on galactic engineering principles. "Madam Director," her assistant announces, "the representatives have arrived for the council session." Hernandez straightens her formal attire, civilian clothes that nonetheless carry the authority once reserved for military uniforms during the war years. Her transition from scientist to leader of humanity's new interstellar government came not through ambition but necessity. When Admiral Vasquez announced her intention to step down from leadership, she named Hernandez as her successor, citing the scientist's unique combination of technical understanding and moral clarity. "The admirals and generals want our survival," Vasquez had said during the transition ceremony. "But survival alone isn't enough. We need someone who understands both what we fought against and what we fought for." In the Protectorate Council chamber, representatives from Earth's nations sit alongside delegates from former Concordat worlds, now bound to humanity through various arrangements of alliance, protection, or supervised autonomy. The chamber's design itself tells the story of humanity's approach to their new role. Elements from Earth's diverse architectural traditions blend with alien concepts, creating something neither fully human nor traditionally Concordat, but genuinely new. "This council is now in session," Hernandez announces, taking her place at the central podium. "Our agenda today includes 3 items. The integration of Netheri scientific personnel into joint research initiatives, expansion of the educational exchange program with Araxian philosophical academies, and review of the rehabilitation progress on Vraxia." This last item draws particular attention. The Vraxian homeworld, once targeted for devastation comparable to what they attempted on Earth, has instead become the focus of a controversial reconstruction effort. Under Hernandez's direction, human occupation forces have shifted from punitive measures to guided redevelopment, maintaining strict controls on military capabilities while helping rebuild civilian infrastructure. The Redemption Initiative on Vraxia has reached several key milestones, reports General Chen. once Captain Chen of the Asteroid Belt Resistance, now overseer of the Vraxian reconstruction. Agricultural production has reached 70% of pre-war levels. Educational reforms have successfully implemented curriculum revisions covering both accurate historical accounts of the war and foundational principles of interspecies ethics. Not all human leaders support this approach. General Mbeki, joining the council via holographic projection from his headquarters near the Galactic core, voices the concerns of the military faction. The rehabilitation program diverts resources that could strengthen our defensive posture, he argues. Multiple pre-spaceflight civilizations have been detected in unexplored regions, some showing concerning signs of aggressive territorial expansion. We should be preparing for potential future threats, not rebuilding the homeworld of an enemy that would have exterminated us without hesitation. The debate reflects the fundamental tension within humanity's new interstellar society, between those who see their military dominance as the foundation for lasting security, and those who believe true stability can only come through building something worth defending, not merely powerful defenses. Hernandez listens to both sides with practiced patience before responding. Our strength allowed us to survive the war, she acknowledges, but our choices now will determine whether we merely survive or truly thrive among the stars. The Vraxians attempted to exterminate us because they feared what we represented, a species they couldn't control or predict. If we governed through the same fear, imposed the same unilateral dominance, how are we different from what we fought against? Outside the council chamber, evidence of Hernandez's vision spreads throughout former Concordat space. Mixed crews of humans and aliens operate vessels exploring regions unknown to either civilization before the war. Research facilities combine human innovative thinking with alien technical expertise developed over millennia. Most significantly, on dozens of worlds, monuments rise not to celebrate victory, but to commemorate the terrible cost of the conflict, and to remind future generations that power without wisdom leads inevitably to destruction. On a newly established colony world near the former Concordat border, Captain Elena Rodriguez, granddaughter of Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, who served on Admiral Vasquez's security detail, commands a mixed human-alien exploration team. As their shuttle descends toward an unexplored continent, she notices her Araxian science officer studying her with curious intensity.